Want to know how I made this raw render of my student from this to this? Check out the video. So today we are going to do a post-production of this particular scene. This is an MVR done by one of my student, master bedroom. So let's look at what all we need before we go ahead with the post-production. As you can see, we need all these render elements. These are the render elements which I am personally using. There are lots of other render elements that are available in 3ds Max. You can select any of these from this huge list. As per my workflow, these are the render elements that have worked for me. Feel free to go through the rest of the render elements and figure out what those things are for. Now in this particular video, what we will discuss is how to work with these elements to do the post-production. So before we go ahead with post-production, I'll just give you a brief introduction about what these elements are doing and how it will help. So basically these three elements that you are seeing here, we'll be using those to do lighting enhancements in Photoshop and any modifications also of lighting. We can't exactly change it, but we can enhance it. And we have V-Ray, raw diffuse filter, reflection, refraction, and specular, which are basically different aspects of a shader, and those also we can enhance in Photoshop if we have these elements. And primarily these wire color and render ID is what I usually use. Cryptomat also you can use. Basically render ID and cryptomat are almost the same, but in some cases render ID tends to give us some pixelation issue. So in that particular case, it's better to go ahead with cryptomat. Or you can V-Ray render ID you can completely ignore and then only use wire color, cryptomat, and even there are other elements like multimat and a few material ID, object ID, stuff like that. So these are the things that I usually use, and these are the categories that I use them for. Basically wire color and cryptomat, render ID, I usually use it to select objects or models in the Photoshop. So let's load our render now. Go to file, scripts, load files into stack. Let me find my render. Renders BRT2. This is where I have the renders. Browse, copy paste. Now I have to select all the images that I want to load in the Photoshop. I'm going to ignore alpha and this PST file which I have already worked on. Then I'll click on OK, again OK. What it will do is it will stack all the render elements that we have previously mentioned as an individual layer here, so that it becomes easier for us to do the post-production. So you can see some extra render elements like glare, things like that. It usually comes because I have used it. Lens effects and the VFP. I'm not sure if I have it. Yeah, right now since I have not rendered anything, it is off. So if we are keeping this on, it will automatically add few more render elements as a supporting factor. So let's go to our RGB color. This is our RGB color render and this is our lens effects. Now if you see, look closely here. So this is lens effects, this is RGB. Okay, so we'll be using lens effects image, and RGB color will not be using to do the post production, because I like to keep these lens effects in the render. So let's see how we can do the post production of this particular render. Let me take a copy of this, and then I'm going to do an auto contrast. Immediately the image looks better. Think I will make this entire image a little brighter. Let's go to camera raw filter. You can check by pressing auto also. It automatically enhances the image. Right now if you see, there is a lot of, not a lot, but some areas are having burned out pixels, which are like above 255 value in RGB color. So to avoid that, I'm going to reduce highlights, whites. Okay, now if you want to check whether you have a burned out area or not, this is the option to turn it off and on. Maybe in your case, maybe this is off, so in that case you might want to turn this back on and check. You just have to click on top of this icon. So let me bring this down. Great. Now let me reduce the contrast a little bit, increase the exposure, reducing the highlights. Okay, texture, when we are increasing the texture, it acts like a bit of a sharpener. Clarity, when we are increasing, it increases the contrast. Little bit of burning is not a problem. You can see some small areas are having red pixels over there. That is fine. If you want to get rid of that, we can always reduce these highlights and whites as well. Entirely up to you. Now let me press OK. Before, after. Now let's look at what all we can do here. I definitely want to increase the brightness of our bed, MBR bed, and would like to highlight this area a little more, and then probably increase the overall saturation of the image, or the intensity of the interior or artificial light in this particular scene. So let's try doing that. Let me go to V-Ray lighting pass. I'm pressing Alt, and to toggle the visibility, press Alt and then click on this I button to toggle the visibility between the elements. So this is not what I'm going for. What I wanted to control is the interior light, basically these spotlights. So let's see which element is having that. So this is that one. So let me take a copy by pressing Ctrl J, keep it on top, change the blending mode to screen. You can experiment with the different blending modes. Sometimes it will, some other blending modes also would work, but in my experience, screen works better for the light pass. Now I will add one levels And to limit this level only for this layer, we will add a clipping mask. Press and hold Alt, then click here. You can see that my icon is changing. Then click here. Now let's play with these levels. You see, it is only affecting our this ceiling light layer. It's a bit too much, but we will reduce the intensity a little bit. Now let's increase the saturation by choosing hue and saturation. Now I want to reduce the effect of this particular layer. I'm going to reduce its opacity from here 100 to 75. Let's see. This looks much better. I think we'll reduce the levels effect a little more. Okay. This looks better. Now let's see if I can enhance our environment a little more. Taking a copy. Green. Way too warm. See if I can control its color, adding a clipping mask. Trying to make it a little more blue. Changing the blending mode to normal to get better visibility. Hue doesn't help. Let's delete that. Let me add one color balance. Clipping mask. Color balance. Okay. Now let's change this to spring. Let's add one levels or curves. Anything is fine. Okay. This looks much better, but it does increase noise in our scene here and there, so we might have to control that. So let's add one mask on top of this by pressing a layer mask button. Now you can see that it's white. Okay, I'm going to reduce its opacity to 50. Not the mask, but the layer. I think 75 also is fine. And now I have clicked on the mask layer, and I can simply erase the areas which I don't want. Right now I have chosen brush tool, and I'm going to swap the color to black by pressing X. Now wherever I'm brushing, this color or the element won't get affected. Okay, not entirely sure where all it is affecting, but I like it this area, how the environment is affecting. Yeah, I think this looks much better. Okay, now this is also good. Now I wanted to make our bed to stand out a little more. I'm not sure if we still need it, but let's give it a try. I'm going to render ID. Okay, just for you guys to see how it is working. Pressing W to select the magic wand, holding shift to add to the selection, clicking every object inside this, alt clicking on the eye again to toggle. Now adding another curves. Now, as you can see, these arrows are only affecting these layers. Okay, this is going to affect the entire image, as in because we have masked it with a selection of only the bed. It's only going to affect the bed. Now I'm going to increase the brightness here. Highlights. Let's check before and after. Before, after. I think this looks good. Now this also is fine. We wanted to enhance this area where the light is coming. Now let's go to that particular render element. This is that render element. Okay, I'm pressing again Alt and clicking on the eye, creating a copy, drag this up, and then change the blending mode to screen. You can see this is how it is affecting, but it is affecting a whole lot more area which I don't want to do. So I will add another layer mask, and I'm going to invert this by pressing Ctrl I. As you can see, now it's completely hidden. Now if I want to make any area visible, I can brush white color with my brush tool, and then in that area that layer will be visible. Let me change the size. Sometimes the keyboard shortcut doesn't work. Changing the color to white. Brush, increasing the brush size, painting it over. Right. That's all to be done in this particular view. I think the scene is a lot more bright. Let me see if I can tone this down a little bit. So I'll select all the adjustments that I have done, press Ctrl J, Ctrl E, and then go to filter, camera raw filter. Just reduce the highlights a little here, exposure slightly reduce, vibrance I'll increase a little, saturation maybe 5. Yeah. This looks decent, I think. And if we want to add a little more sharpness to this image, we can do that by, let's see, let me add one more layer. Come to filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And it is a good idea to not overdo it, because it can create a um, sort of an edge when we are doing it. Let me show you what I mean. You can see here there is a contrast coming in between the edges, right, which we don't want. We want to do it, but at the same time it's a good idea to keep it subtle. So yeah, click on preview button off and on, then you can see the detail that is coming up. So sharpness also is done. I think we are pretty much done with the post production here. It is a good idea to kind of group all of these together so that let me keep these render elements where the selection is happening. It's a good idea to keep it on top, right underneath our raw render. And let's group everything together by pressing Ctrl G. I'm going to name it classes. This is our dense effects, and these are our edits, and we are fine. It's a good idea to keep your PSD file or the post-production file pretty organized like this, especially when we are working with a bigger project and all that. It will come in handy. So let's save this as PSD file. I already have one here. I'm just going to call it MBRT2, basically master bedroom test 2. V1 is basically view 1. There is one more view in this particular bedroom. So yeah, PSD is done, and we need one more. Save as. Let's wait for the PSD file to save properly. File, save it as a JPG. This is a file that you can use to upload in social media or any other platform that you are planning to. So let's do a comparison between our raw render and the final one. So this is our raw render, and this is after post production.